Theatre is limited in many ways. For example, one stage can show many locations, but is restricted, at the end of the day, to one location, that being a stage inside a theatre. The traditional way a theatre is set out is that the audience seats and retreats from the stage and performance, distancing them from the action and requiring a lot of imagination. In addition, not everything is possible with theatre, leading to lots of metaphoric movement accompanying speech. For instance, in the number Hurricane from the sung and rap through concept musical Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton remembers his mother being sick and holding him. On the revolving stage, we see the actress of Maria Reynolds on the floor holding her arms out in the way that his mother would on the way out to the peaceful land of the afterlife. This is accompanied by raised furniture symbolising his tangled, rapid and conflicting thoughts, and the hurricane that kickstarted his life. Simply put, not everything can come to life with theatre, and imagination from the audience is required. These restrictions cause creativity, as audience like a balance of tradition and novelty. This change is brought by people branching off from what the normal theatre is to keep it alive. A great example of this would be Steven Berkoff, with his grotesqueness and mash-up of the history of theatre. From Greek theatre's chorus, to William Shakespeare's rhythms and shock factor, to Japanese theatre's pale masks and makeup, and to Bertolt Brecht's minimalism. Having powerful bow movements with 5 minutes of a 20-minute scene is essential for the growth and survival of theatre, as well as showing how many limitations the theatre as we know it has. Per contra, film does not have these restrictions. For example, if you want a baby that talks and is in the anti-capitalist mafia against baby silences, with too many innuendos and fetish references to have a parental guidance rating, you get DreamWorks' The Boss Baby. If you want a grief-stricken pensioner with thousands of helium balloons attached to his house to travel to a South American postcard destination, and you want to explain to your 5-year-old what miscarriage is, you get Pixar's Up. Finally, if you want to see kids driving a school bus with the passions being adults, and flying a fighter jet while singing about their aspirations, you get Netflix's Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical. Basically, if you can write it, you can make it and see it come to life. To help me explain this further, I'll be comparing the musical theatre adaptation of Roald Dahl's Matilda and the movie adaptation of that adaptation. Stages are limited in the fact that there are only a few places a performer can go. Upstage right, upstage centre, upstage left, centre stage right, downstage centre, downstage left, and all in between. In Matilda, they use vertical height to combat this issue. This is shown throughout with their sets that are like the Burj Khalifa, but Tom Cruise has not climbed them. I'll show you how vertical height is used in Naughty, School Song, The Hammer, and When I Grow Up. After being told by Mr. Wormwood to get off my bed, you little bookworm, she somewhat obeys. She goes to her bedroom, but sits on the bookshelf above her bed. This is a bit odd, which introduces us to Matilda's coping strategies in this I Want song. She copes with the abuse by building her mind through learning, in this case the reading of books and plays. This is subtle rebellion by distancing her personality from that of her father's. And intelligence is the strongest weapon to have against the enemy. This sets up the explicit yet sneaky rebellion of putting green hair dye in her father's hair tonic. This suggests she is not negatively affected by the insult of bookworm, and instead inspires and encourages her to rebel. This song gets the audience fully on Matilda's side, if they were not before with Wormwood's idiocy, and makes them hopeful for Matilda's future. The first day of school is daunting as it is, let alone going to Trunchbull's. This is exaggerated by a gate that traps the children inside as if it is a maximum security prison. The authoritarianism is shown through the great discipline and complicitness of the existing students' letterbox climbing gymnastics. Height is seen as power, and the mature students being higher implies there is a hierarchy in the school in order to survive. This overwhelms the audience, putting them in the new students' shoes and makes them hopeful for Matilda's mind to change the school for the better. In order to be a tyrannous dictator, you need surveillance everywhere. This is shown in The Hammer by the CCTV camera monitors that are stacked up to the ceiling. Additionally, the students in the balconies being obedient by singing the school motto highlights the fear they hold of Miss Trunchbull. This is overwhelming and humorously alienating for the audience, and helps maintain their hopefulness for an improved future for the unfortunate children. Now get out! After Bruce is unfairly taken to the chokey, All students hold Matilda's resilience for getting justice and fairness.
That's not right!
They express this by exploring what they'll do when they're older, wiser and stronger, with all boiling down to freedom. This sparks something in them, and they bond by playing on the swings. It can be inferred from all children having height that they're equally powerful, as they are a team, and are ready to revolt against their oppressor. This builds momentum for the second half's events, and is the peak of hopefulness in the audience, before it quickly turns into contentedness.
And that's not right!
With my analyses, I conclude that Matilda the musical is metaphorical in its verticality, because of the stage limitations. This helps the engagement of the audience. Finally, strobe lighting and loud sound effects are used in Matilda quite a lot. This is to create more confusion, mystery and overwhelm, and helps with protesting the restrictions theatre has. One example of this is when throwing
Amanda Fripp,
the girl with pigtails. This is to guide the audience's eyes elsewhere and hide the trickery. There is less verticality in the movie, as they're able to access and therefore show more locations. This means it's less metaphoric. The exception to this is When I Grow Up. In Naughty there is no bookshelf to sit upon, so she sneaks around the house in time to the music.
Rob them of their hope of living happily. The endings are often a little bit gory.
She jumps on her parents' bed in the first chorus, highlighting a lack of fear for the consequences of rebellion. After tampering with her father's hair tonic, she climbs to the roof and does handstands on it while singing the last chorus, emphasizing her fearlessness and willingness to be reckless for her freedom. This is empowering and gets the audience hopeful for a better future for her. In School Song, the existing students put their arms through the gate as if wanting to leave like a prisoner. This means that the gate is used as regular cell bars. Matilda and Lavender, the only new students, are taken on a tour of the school, calling at the main foyer, the first corridor, the furnace, the cafeteria, the second corridor, and then terminating at Miss Honey's class. They are taken on a whistle-stop tour of the school while being told how to survive in this authoritarian estate for 30 hours a week.
Listen here, my dear, you'll be punished severely if you step out of line, and if you quiet, will be double. You should stay out of trouble and remember to be extremely careful.
Which is extremely daunting. Without the blocks, obscure gate and holes, the letters are shown on doors and walls across the school through satisfying time zoom-ins of them. In my opinion, this is not as overwhelming as the stage production, but the empathizing is made easier for the audience with Matilda and Lavender's reactions. With film, the reactions can be more natural than that of the screens in the theatre version, because cameras can pick up on more details and be closer to the action than the audience can.
Lavender, Matilda, and say quick.
Just you wait for Fizzette.
The establishing shot of the headmistress's office puts Miss Trunchbull in the centre. This is to give the first impression of her being the high amount of power she holds. The CCTV camera monitors are to the sides of her, nearly to the ceiling. Arguably, the shot is unsatisfying and less overwhelming than the towering monitors in the stage show. In the Hammer itself, the students sing where they are when the announcement goes off. Eventually, they do a dance with colour flags outside, instructed by Trunchbull, where they end in the positions of the Olympic rings. This fear-driven obedience is alienating to Matilda and Lavender, and we are shown that with a reaction shot, making it alienating to us too.
Now get out!
The locations for When I Grow Up is on the commute home, or more specifically, in the children's minds. Instead of one metaphoric movement of playing on the swings, it's 3. Riding a motorbike, driving a bus, and flying a plane. These jobs give them power. Firstly, riding a motorbike allows for the boy to pick up a teddy for the little girl. Secondly, driving a bus gives a person authority as they are in charge of a heavy vehicle, and the passengers are grown-ups. Lastly, flying a plane is a bigger responsibility and as such requires the most skill. These jobs of power are recognised by all students, meaning they are collectively powerful and are ready to revolt with Matilda. Their dreams, aspirations and imaginations coming to life shows they are hopeful for freedom, and the lack of restrictions in the film.
I might as well be saying, I think that it's okay.
After my analyses, My conclusion is that the movie musical uses less metaphoric movement and vertical height than the theatre one. This is because they have access to more locations. This means that film has less limitations than theatre. Finally, there is no need for the strobe lights and loud sound effects, because they use CGI and clever cinematography and editing in front of our eyes. This makes it smoother than explicitly hiding the trickery by turning off the lights. In the film,
Amanda Threat.
is shown being thrown into the bushes off campus and surviving. The Amanda in the throw is most probably a doll, which is smoothly transitioned into with the mini cuts. I'd hazard a guess that, to make it realer, it is a stunt double until the last shot that has the motto above the gate in it. When writing a screenplay, a writer needs to stick by many rules. One rule is crucial. What you write needs to be necessary. This means a lot of things are changed and or cut. Some examples are: the brother is cut, which makes the parents worse for hating their child as it's their only one. Pathetic telly and the solo lavender scenes are exclusive to the theatre musical, meaning there are less details about other characters in the world in the film. This makes it imperative that the audience has some context before watching for the movie to make sense. This is ineffective storytelling. Despite these, a new song, Still Holding My Hand, replaces the peculiar Russian scene. This makes the adoption quicker and nicer than the alienating way of the stage production. The cuts allow for smaller details to reflect the source material. Matilda's breakfast is cornflakes. Mr. Wormwood's clothes are not loud, but he owns a queen-size bed with many teddies and an auto-chop appliance. And Kellogg's cereal. And the motto above the school gate looks like the entrance to Auschwitz. Conversely, the stage production is more aligned with Roald Dahl's story, because they give the world and the characters time to be explored. The exception to this is Pathetic. For example, Dole writes, Miss Honey felt she could take on anybody. Pathetic is a 1 minute 40-second song about hesitating to of Transwell's office, probably included to emphasise the fear the school has for their headmistress. This number is used to describe the world in a quicker way than writing. This is shown again with the first chapter of the book being Miracle, the opening number that encapsulates the two extremes of parenting that Dahl writes about. It could be argued that the film does not need Pathetic, as School Song highlights the fear better than the theatre version. This is done through the students being scared of the announcement and Miss Honey barely saving Matilda in Lavender.
Just you wait for phys ed.
Despite these restrictions, the film has more freedom than the stage production. This is shown by the imaginations of the creative team coming to life in Naughty, School Song, The Hammer, and When I Grow Up. I prefer the songs in the movie because there is more energy. Except for Revolting Children. Overall, I prefer Theatre's Matilda the musical, as there are more details, creating a clearer world and allowing for more complex characters. For me, the hardest question to answer when discussing theatre is, what's next? I'm going to rephrase this question to be less open-ended. Have we reached the limit with theatre? I don't think we have reached the limit of theatre just yet. For example, a relatively new theatre practitioner, Katie Mitchell, has a style called live cinema, where she incorporates film into theatre. With film forever evolving, so will her theatre. Theatre reflects society, which is forever changing too. This is shown from Greek theatre all the way up to Matilda the musical. Greek theatre, the importance of gods. Roman theatre, the importance of their gods. Liturgical texts, the importance of one loving god. Mayday plays, taking the mick out of power. Commedia dell'arte, taking the mick out of social hierarchy. French Renaissance, taking the mick out of politics and social norms. Shakespeare, taking the mick out of monarchy and war. Musicals, taking the mick out of everyone. Matilda the musical, taking the mick out of authoritarianism. Also, as Dennis Kelly and Tim Minchin hint at, rules are made to be broken. Lastly, as I said in the thesis, restrictions cause creativity, and the audience like novelty. Theatre has its traditions, and people uphold them, ensuring its survival. Another tricky question to answer is, what is next for film? Every year comes a new trend. This year's is making live-action remakes, adaptations, and sequels to pre-existing repertoire. Some examples are The Little Mermaid, Matilda the Musical, and Mission Impossible. Moreover, I've noticed that filmmakers have been taking children's stories and characters and destroying them with a dark twist. This is seen with Barbie's existentialism and Winnie the Pooh's ravenousness. So, what is the next trend? I think we'll see more stage shows being adapted. This is because Six the Musical is coming to streaming services soon, so it's just a matter of time that another theatre production becomes realer and more accessible through the use of film. To conclude, theatre has limitations and requires more imagination and analysis than reviewers of movies. This is because there is a lot of metaphoric movement due to being restricted to one location, that being a stage inside a theatre. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please like, share and subscribe with notifications turned on. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I have many more ideas for video essays like this, and I can't wait for them to come to life. My thoughts are like filming this video. Real.